slides?
Yeah, I think James has sorted it all out.
Are we going live?
Probably get feedback. Yeah, he's working.
What is it?
Yeah, it's touch and go again. I had to do a firmware update, reboot the machine twice, change some settings. But it's working now. Just in time.
I'll do a bit of the spiel.
Yeah, cool.
I'll send the slides.
Streaming. I think it records when it streams. So that's alright. We'll stop it if you want.
No, I mean, the stream is fine, but then the recording is like, it's like one of those things, like I still have some in YouTube, I cannot even listen to it. Like, it's just so embarrassing.
Oh well, when you're 80.
It wasn't me, I'm not saying it wasn't me, definitely me.
When you're 80, you'll be able to look back.
Well, do you want me to move the signage across?
Oh yeah, you could do, yeah. Yeah, that's a good shout.
It should be cool.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah, perfect. I was trying to remember. I thought there was something else we wanted to get next time, if I remember rightly, you see Jay, that's the right one. Well, that's no adding too many, are you? Adding more slides.
Just added one. Just added one. Casually. I'm going to launch it and then still, this is running from somewhere, I'm not sure where. So basically it's instead of me going for putting it in the container, I'm going to use this fancy solution that is for teaching developers how to code distributed. They actually have a lot of always like an on-prem that I can have React platform before. And then basically say, So the server that plays out. So like, if there are 10 people here, then everybody knows machine. So basically, something like that. If they have hash it properly, then actually you get more which is it sounds more difficult to work with because I'm not a coder myself. I'm good at breaking code. Using other people's code and sticking together and stuff with ChatGPT or something else a lot easier because then I can't like ask it and everything in the code and change it. So it's a lot easier to just start with nothing. But with the more days, it's just like I feel like there's
Yeah.
Hi guys, back.
Sorry, coffee is kicking in. Yeah, drink more beers. You need it.
I need a second one.
Everybody needs it.
I'm driving later, so
Oh. Where do you park?
I'll get the train. Get the train to work to Malvern.
Okay, where do you live?
Just probably like a walk. It's about it's only 10 minutes.
So do you live in Malvern as well? Yeah. Jim lives in Malvern as well.
Aren't you?
Nate, I mean.
No, Nate lives out in Tom Hill, I think.
Seriously?
Yeah, I think Nate lives out.
Okay.
I'm sure he does.
Okay. Need to juggle my brain. I thought both of you live in Malvern. That's why you are here.
They'll all come together, you'll get up there, you'll start to talk, and then you'll just all come together. And then you'll be on your way out, and you'll think, well, what was I worried about?
So how do you go to Malvern from here, from New Street?
Do you straight, it's like,
Go straight.
yeah, it's 50 minutes on the train. 7 minutes in the dark.
You normally go to Malvern near Christmas for the events they have. Ice rink and stuff.
I moved there during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit because it was cheap, so I thought I'd be able to ride my bike, get out and see it. But I didn't think I'd stay there. But I do.
It's a beautiful town. It's a beautiful.
Not a lot happens.
But if you're into like, I don't know, climbing hills,
After you fought, not a lot happens anyway, do you know what I mean?
I mean, with your friends, yeah, if you have friends around. I don't have friends around, so I'm like, sometimes, like once I told them, let's go like hill climbing in Malvern, and they were all like, yeah, let's do this. But then we ended up in Licky Hill, so it's like,
Alright.
it's okay.
That's quite nice. I spend time with my friends and go for a walk in friends. That's quite nice. Yeah, I quite like peaceful life.
Yeah, that's it. I live in Wychbold, so it's basically in the middle of Bromsgrove and Droitwich. It's a village, so just off the motorway. Near Webbs, yes. Walking to Webbs, yes.
Wow.
But I don't walk to Webbs because I'm lazy. That's the thing.
Good cafe.
Yeah, they have opened a new one. Have you seen that? Have you been recently?
Probably 3 months ago.
So I haven't been in a new one, but then when you go inside, where they used to sell pots, and nobody was there except me. Obviously, I would always like to look at pots, and now there is a cafe there, and I'm like, where are my pots?
Oh, they've moved it then? Okay.
They have two now. One is the restaurant cafe.
Yeah.
This one is just cafe or something. I guess they earn more money out of that than anything else. Sell things expensively anyway. So. Yeah, but then they have to survive. That's the thing.
I always think it's like Disneyland for old people.
Disneyland for old people. I think for young people it's like Disneyland, so like especially near Christmas. My daughter loves to go there and to look at stuff. I guess whenever we have guests as well over, we go to that spots. And yeah, it's okay.
Definitely a destination.
Yeah, I would say the only destination near us anyway there, unless we want to go to McDonald's. So that's
Yeah, there's McDonald's is on there.
every Friday McDonald's. That's the thing.
Yeah. Shall I chat to you? Come and sit down.
Come on. No, pizza.
We're silent. Look at that. Causing a safety hazard.
That small thing in the camera.
Yeah. It's just a webcam, really. Yeah. It's just to get it at the right height. I could bring my system. I think.
That's travel beer.
Travel beer. We'll be in a minute. When Nave gives a signal.
Hi guys.
No, after the.
Hello all. Thanks for coming. I'm James. I'm from Hayes. I'm the director of cyber for Hayes, both on a practice perspective in terms of recruitment and consultancy as well. I have a bit of a background working in cyber as well, so two pronged attack for me working for Hayes. Just want to welcome everybody. And a big thank you to our speakers who are going to be speaking. We'll hear a bit from me, but before we go to OWASP May, I just want to say there isn't scheduled to be a fire alarm. If the fire alarm goes off, let's not all panic. There is an exit. I think it's over there, but Michael directors. If it's the temperature's pretty warm in here, can't actually change the aircon. It's centrally run by the building, so apologies if it's a bit hot. Drinks, pizzas, as you see, all available for everybody, and just enjoy yourselves. I'll hand over to Nave to talk about OWASP with it.
Nate, before you do,
Does the clicker work?
if anyone can hack the air conditioner.
Yeah, good.
Very good, James. Hello, everyone. Real life, right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. OWASP Birmingham chapter meeting. So, not much for me because the talks are more interesting than me, but I'm obliged, even though I'm a volunteer at OWASP, to do some kind of spiel about OWASP. So, otherwise I don't really get sacked from the job. So what is OWASP? If you haven't been, and I recognise quite a number of faces, so I'm sure you know. But we were open web application. We're now open worldwide because OWASP is not just about the web anymore. It's about everything application based. So we're all over the place. But effectively, at its heart, we're just a community-led organisation. based out of the US, but it's a non-profit foundation and it does stuff like this. It does chapters, it does meetups, has membership, we'll get onto that as well, but also has big ticket items like the AppSec Lisbon, which is happening in about 3 weeks, AppSec all over the place, US. So, but that's what it is really. It's all about improving our application security, and it's kind of volunteer led. It's free and open, so obviously we don't charge you to come here. I don't get paid to be here either. I just do it because I love it apparently. Because it's good to get James to give me some free beer and pizza. And again, if you stop doing that, then who knows? But he's been very good to us, so that's. So apart from the conferences, everything here is free, obviously, apart from the conferences. But you do get some discounts if you're a student, or if you're a leader, or if you're a member, and all that kind of good stuff. Let's skip through. So what is OWASP mainly known for? The top 10 probably is the big thing. So every couple of years releases its OWASP top 10 risks. You'll probably find SQL injection up there on number 1. It has been for donkeys because people like Surush and Tiraf and others are pen testing it and finding it. Perhaps look at something else. Too easy, but probably the fault of the web application people. But it effectively builds collateral for us all to use in our day-to-day jobs across all the kind of the layers of the network model, mainly around applications, but of course network scanning tools as well. So they're just a small portion of it. Myself, actually, in my day job, I use more of the OWASP SAM, which is the software assurance and maturity model, and the DSOM, which is more about DevSecOps maturity model framework. But if you're a developer, then I'd point you into the ASVS, the Application Security Verification Standard, which is a big list of controls that we can put into our development to try and secure that. And then you've got things like JuiceShop, which is a vulnerable web application where you can test if you get into a pen test and test if you can find all the vulnerabilities, and actually it's quite kind of neat. It actually is a shop to buy juice, funny enough. So I know the clues in the name, but yeah, it is actually, you can buy apple juice and orange juice. But what you really want to do is to find the challenges, and there's a leaderboard as well. Also open source security with dependency check, which you can then bring all together into dependency track, and bring all your vulnerability tools into Defect Dojo as well. So would recommend that you take a look at the OWASP projects. Again, all free, all open source to use and abuse. Oh, there's us. So these are the UK chapters. I think that's the most up to date. London's obviously the big beast there. That gets hundreds of people, 100 people normally there. I went there recently actually. But yeah, not too far away from one of the local chapters, of which we're just one of them. So first, I would like to thank you all for coming as well. Thank you for supporting the Birmingham chapter. Again, some familiar faces as well, and some new faces, so that's really good to know. Yeah, we're all volunteers effectively. And this is today's running order. So doors open, food, yeah, we've gone through all that. So we always say we're kind of a broad church when it comes to talks. We've had talks on CI/CD pipelines, security champions, strengthening passwords. We've had a whole, a whole gamut of talks. I think today though, there's got 2 talks today that I really think are just going to blow our minds. I think, on the one side, we've got Charlie talk about post-quantum cryptography. Kudos if you can follow along with that. I'm looking forward to that one. Charlie's got nervous look on his face, and Suresh is actually a returning talker. I think you might have talked about very first one or second.
I think it's the first one.
It was the first one, wasn't it? I think the first one around cracking games, wasn't it? I think. Gambling.
Gambling style.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It was. Yeah. If we're going to get into the weeds of stuff, I think it's tonight. So sit back, keep those eyes open, and ears peeled. I think it's going to be a really good one. And once we've done, we'll have a quick break in between, depending on timings. We'll come back, get a second talk out of the way, wrap up, and then for those who fancy it, I'll have a couple of drinks over the old joint stock afterwards, I think. It would be remiss of me if I didn't shout out some other meetups in the area. We've got quite a good ecosystem of tech meetups. These are the few that I saw that were running in the next next few weeks. So you can see how it's a wide range, effectively, from language-based to PHP and .NET, coding, and also Fusion, which unfortunately I won't be able to make this time because I'll be away, but that's one that I go to fairly regularly and is a really good one. So I would welcome anyone who's here today to take a look at these. All on Meetup as well, and if you can support them as well, that would be superb, because we all like to share our community across and really across the whole breadth of the tech mids community. There's always going to be talks and subjects and meetups to suit anyone's background or interest. So yeah, wanted to make sure they were flagged up. Last one for me is, if you haven't already, well, you've all been on Meetup, hopefully, thank you. But if you haven't already, then there's a LinkedIn channel, there's a YouTube channel, and we apparently go live as well. So please do not swear. If anyone remembers that reference, and then follow us on Twitter as well. That's mine, and Jim's my fellow chapter lead who's sitting there with the audio-visual equipment, and follow us on Twitter to keep up to date. So that's my ask. If you can go away and just follow one of those, follow YouTube. I think that'd be really cool actually to get those numbers up. And that's me. That's my whistle-stop tour really. I want to genuinely thank James and Hayes for the sponsorship put on these events. It couldn't happen unless we got somewhere where we could park our bums and get refreshments. So, thanks to James and Hayes. Right, I think, and now talking of which, we'll segue over to James. That's not on the same screen, so you might need to just
minimise that one. So, I'm just going to talk to you, as I mentioned, I direct cyber across UK and Ireland for Hayes, both from a recruitment perspective and consultancy perspective. Now we provide, obviously, Hayes is recruitment, everyone's got socials and bombs on seats, but we also deliver projects for organisations as well, whether that be teams of people or us actually doing the delivery of the project with oversight from specialists like myself, etc. What we do globally as a global organisation in the last couple of years is get into the mindsets of CISOs and leaders and kind of ask them kind of some key themes. Some of it will actually be around talent, but in this year we looked at AI and other different things that CISOs, heads of, anybody globally who's in a senior position in cyber. In terms of a bit of the background, these are the countries we covered. We had 1,600 responses globally. And to be in that criteria to respond to it, you have to be either a head of or a CISO. So this comes from the mindsets of the leaders of cyber functions globally. Interestingly, this year, legal was number 3 in terms of people that responded. I think the legal sector is going through a real different, technology-wise, real different challenge at the moment. AI is a significant piece for the legal sector, and one of the sponsors of this before was Vincent Mason's, the CISO there, has spoken about how cyber and technology in general is going to change the way that lawyers actually present cases, etc., because it won't necessarily be about the recognition and recall for individuals with their degrees and case study knowledge. It's actually going to be, they'll have AI ability and technology that will actually mean the skill set is much more about being presented cases rather than it is to have the base knowledge. So I think legal responses was the 3rd highest. IT, digital and telecoms, that's pretty much any IT consultancy, etc. And obviously banking, financial services. Government and public sector is 4th in terms of the response rate, but a high response rate, 47 countries that we cover globally, all with different perspectives. We broke down in the report different nuances between from the survey in different locations. The survey is available for you to download free of charge. There are QR codes that you just get out and scan that to get the full report. I'm not going to go, believe me, this isn't death by PowerPoint about every single piece, but I'll just share some key themes that we took out from the report to share with you. On the talent side, 61% of leaders in this space do not rate their organisation's ability to attract cyber talent in this space. That is a big concern in this industry. If you cannot attract the talent, there are significant impacts to risk, your ability to deliver your strategy. I see it tangibly in our own organisation, where we're trying to recruit for our own cyber security function. Being a global business and the data that we hold and the fact that we pay thousands of contractors across the globe on a weekly basis, you can imagine the amount that we pay out to contractors in all frames is worth multiple millions, close to billions each week. So we are a significant target and we struggle to attract the right level of talent. I'd say that our ability to do that is higher given the fact that we do recruitment as our core. Additionally, I think in terms of budgets, this was really interesting because a lot of the leaders were turning around and saying to us that they expect their budget to go up this year. However, 72% are still concerned. Well, what does that say? That says actually they think their budgets are going to go up, but they don't think that's actually going to address the risk or the issue that organisations face. So yeah, 54% might see it go up. And that's actually quite low in cyber. In previous years, it's been kind of the 60-70%. The global economy has had a huge impact on that, and 75% of the leaders believe it's impacted their strategy, but not just in terms of a macro level, in terms of their ability to address cyber threats and challenges, but also I think the fact that the budgets haven't risen has massively impacted that. The macro climate, it could never be quite as messy as it is at the moment. We've obviously got Ukraine, the war in Ukraine. We've obviously got the challenges in the Middle East. We've got an election in this country. We've got an election coming up in America, where surprisingly a previous president is in court and could still run again, which is again bizarre. But the macro world at the moment has never been more challenging. And from a UK perspective, and the report goes into this, there's bits about Brexit. Brexit created a whole different host of challenges in the cyber world, not just from a threat landscape, but also from how we interact and share information with our partners in Europe as well. Never seen this stat before in 13, 15 years of working in cybersecurity, that 44% of employers' salaries froze. That's a significant amount at the moment. So the curve, when I talked to you 5-6 years ago, the curve was just going upwards in terms of salaries in this space. It's starting to plateau a little bit, and I think that's all down to the current economic climate, particularly in the UK. Obviously, the cost of living and interest rates, etc., and inflation was sky high, so investment wasn't coming. I'm hoping that following Rishi's announcement yesterday about an election, that after an election you tend to see a bit of a boom in investment. So hopefully from our predictions and all the analysis we've done of every election globally, because we operate globally, post an election there was more activity in recruitment, in projects, etc. Every year we've seen that in every country. So hopefully we'll see a bounce in 6 weeks, I think it is time, after that. Talent development. This is something I hate using the word skills gap in the cyber industry, because I fundamentally don't think there's a skills gap. I think there's an attitudinal gap in terms of employers wanting a wish list and HR wanting a wish list of skills that is so long, and job specs that are written so poorly that I'm regularly advising you about what you actually want. And people who've heard me speak before I say to clients when they come to a saying we're recruiting, I say, don't scrap the job spec. What are the 3 attributes you need? If it's sometimes it's a core skill. It could be GCP, it could be architect, it could be C technology, etc. That's fine. We can go find that, but don't be in a market where there's a gap. You cannot be prescribing to candidates. You need to be much more open. And equally, they've got to look at skills rather than certifications as well, and then build the certifications after you've found these attributes and skills. I wax lyrical about this. I've spoken at InfoSec and big conferences about this. I'm really passionate about that. There isn't actually a skills gap, it's an attitude problem. But still, even though CISOs and leaders in this space recognise 62% of organisations don't have a cyber security development programme. I quoted, I think in one of the Gardeners, I famously said to somebody that organisations need to stop being talent consumers and start being talent creators. You've got to invest in creating the talent. It's not just going to land on your doorstep begging for a job. You need to start creating that at a macro level and a micro level. If all organisations start doing that at a micro level, at a macro level, we don't have such a distinct problem we've got now. Great if you're in the industry because salaries are high, but this industry is going nowhere, and nor is the demand for the skill sets going anywhere. So if you're working in cyber, in tech, and in dev, if you're a pure dev, I'd say get into DevSecOps. It's a really good area at the moment, both contract and perm. But that's a worrying stat. I'm hoping that next year that stat is down, because there are mechanisms that you can get into cyber and boot camps. Hayes do a Hayes skills piece, which is where we take anybody from any sector of society, no experience in tech, whatever, and we will train and deploy those over a 2-year programme, which is minimal cost to a client to do that. And we're doing that for government departments. Some I can name, some I can't. One is DEFRA, 16 individuals for a programme that we're looking at. They were very heavily laden with contractors, very expensive resource. Didn't have the internal talent capability or the know-how to do a training programme of a scale in cyber, and we could bespoke it. So they wanted five that could be GRC, a couple that could develop into architects, and a couple of generalist SOC people. Our Hayes skills programme came in and delivered that, and I should have looked at the slide up, but of that, there were 48% female in that demographic. You don't get that in cyber anywhere else. You just don't get that. There were 2 that were ex-homeless. Homeless. There were 4 that were primary carers. That's a class as a primary carer. You could be caring for parents or an elderly relative or children, so it wasn't discrimination against that. That's a game-changing option that we provide to organisations at the moment, but I really hope that stat comes down. 5%, 73%, 5% or less of budget is spent on talent development. Again, a problem. There's always a famous CEO quote. So, this person wants this, skills, and it'll cost this much to train them, and then someone turns around and says, well, what about the cost if you don't train them? We have to think in that regard, and I think it's a lot of the survey responders that we spoke to them after to get further qualitative information. We kind of said, well, what do you propose is the right level? There is no right level, but it can't be 5% or less, because if we're not upskilling people, when technology is consistently changing, we're going to fall behind the bad actors, because the bad actors don't have any morals, they don't have any jurisdictions or PCI or ISO or cyber essentials that they're bothered. They're not bothered about the compliance because they're just going to attack. So that's got to increase. The usual reasons why it's a challenge to hire are there. Salary expectations can be high in this market. There is a shortage of skills, but I fundamentally think that the top sources of talent needs to change, and I want to see these 2 be at the top, because we're always looking at graduates, and internals should stay there to be honest, but they're always looking at graduates or universities and that thing. We're not actually populating it with a diverse skill set, in my opinion, or a diversity of thought, to be really honest, which is crucial to protecting against the attackers. We asked about AI. One thing I would say when we were discussing this and internally, I said AI is not new to cyber. AI has existed in a form in cyber, in SIEM tools, elastic tools, for a long time. We didn't, just to be clear, the 89 late design would not affected these results, but I think one of the things that really stem from this is that 89% of the leaders are concerned about the potential risks of AI, but equal amount that said that it would significantly improve their capabilities. There's a senior director of AI for a large civil engineering firm that create aircraft engines, not too far from here in Derbyshire, and the director of AI there said his perspective on AI in the cyber world is AI will take itself into a room and battle itself out. What it needs is the humans to back that up. What we see as the big risk in AI is actually more on the data privacy, data privacy. So everyone saw about Copilot launch, about how it's going to take a screenshot, and it's auto-enabled. No. Just have it as it's an option that you add. It's a bit like when websites say to you, "I want to subscribe to this." Before you have to tick the box and say, like, "Yes, send me marketing." Before it was just captured everybody. Apply that same methodology to AI and Copilot. Copilot looks like a fantastic tool, but the significant risk of that is vast. I mean, if I saw some of my emails or internal conversations, I'd probably be fired. But the big thing that the cyber leaders are saying about AI is a massive enabler for improving their ability to quickly respond or quickly understand what's happening in their environment. So that's going to continue. So at equal level of it's a threat, it's an advantage, which no one's really surprised about. Obviously, people are already using AI tools in cyber, so they expect that to increase. The area that are getting more involved that I see that are non-technical in the security and governance, specific GRC elements within AI and security, is actually data protection officers and data privacy people. Because we've got our own kind of Bing kind of ChatGPT for Hays that they've created for us, but there's lots of users, I'm sure, that are using a generic GPT tool that they're putting sensitive data into. Where does that data go? How is that governed? And that's what our legal and DPO are really concerned about, is how are our users using it and what's happening to that data. Yeah. Put it in there and yeah. For our organisation, we obviously can hold CVs, addresses, bank details if you're a contractor, etc. So we're really we've locked it down. We've only got this kind of bespoke. It's only certain things we can't upload a document to it or things like that. It's quite limited in what it'll grow, but we've gone down we're going to be risk averse because we don't want to be. We're a big name in this industry, so if you're going to go after anybody of the ICO or whatever, you go after a big name to make an example of it, and they're probably the most likely ones to pay a fine. But it's actually the DPO and legal that are really taking more of an onus on the impact of AI and data security, more so than the CISOs at the moment that we're seeing. That's kind of it. I'm going to talk about next steps and how you recruit, etc. Because if you need to recruit, you obviously come to us naturally. But that's all I wanted to cover off. The report goes into far more detail. It breaks it down into countries as well. So please do feel free to scan it, get yourself a copy. If you've got any questions about it or any follow-ups, please just reach out to me or any of my colleagues, and we're happy to go through that. But that's me for now. So you'll be pleased to know. We'll move on to yourself. Yeah, the next actually really interesting, which I'm very intrigued to find out more about, is the quantum world.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
I don't think anyone's trouble like me. Tomorrow we're going to listen to what Charlie's got to say. It's such a cutting edge topic. It's so interesting. And it's going to be so interesting over the next couple of years to see how this develops. So listen to what Charlie's got to say. And tomorrow, when you're at work, ask the question, what are we doing about who's sponsored and cryptography? Just ask the question.
Yeah. 5 o'clock on Friday.
Maybe next week. Thank you, Charlie.
Alrighty then, thank you very much. So, my name is Charlie, I work for Capgemini, and today I'm going to talk to you all about post-quantum cryptography. So, over the last few years, you might have seen articles and books with the following titles, and they all warn us of the impending quantum apocalypse, a day when our current cryptographic methods will be rendered useless. Now, I note that actually 2 of these articles literally use the word apocalypse, so it's very, very worrying, very, very scary. A little bit smaller. So, after reading these articles, I often find that I leave them with a feeling that I don't have a complete understanding of the problem. So, I'm not an expert in cryptography, I'm not an expert in quantum computing, I am just a regular engineer. But I do have a superpower that is very rare among engineers. That is, actually read the documentation. So in this talk, I have tried to do the reading on the topic so that you don't have to. Give me 1 moment to sort my tech out. Here we go. Okay, so by the end of this talk in half an hour's time, I hope you leave here with a better understanding of the following questions. First of all, what is the problem posed by quantum computers to cryptography? What effect would broken cryptography have? How long until this problem becomes an issue? What is being done about it? What do the next few years likely look like for us? And finally, what actions, if any, do you need to be taking now? So let's start with what the problem is. Now, we are at an OWASP meetup, so I'm sure we're all already familiar with cryptography. But in a nutshell, essentially cryptography is all about enabling secure communication, despite the potential presence of eavesdroppers or attackers. So cryptography tries to answer the question, how do I send you information without anybody else finding out what that is, or tampering with it in transit, for example? So when we talk about cryptography, we're often talking about high-level protocols like TLS. But at the end of the day, these high-level protocols are just made up of cryptographic primitives. So cryptographic primitives are the basic building blocks of cryptography, and you can think of them like Lego bricks. So at a high level, they are things like random number generators, hashing functions, symmetric and asymmetric ciphers. And each primitive has different properties. So depending on what I want my protocol to do, I will select several of these primitives and combine them together into my protocol. And of course, each of these primitives will have multiple implementations. So some examples of hashing functions, the SHA family, SHA 1, 2, and 3. Some examples of symmetric ciphers, AES and DES. And for asymmetric, in the asymmetric family, RSA is perhaps the most well-known example. Now, this is a little bit of foreshadowing because I'm going to come back to all of these implementations in a moment. So the message here is that by looking at how quantum computing affects these primitives, we can understand how quantum computing affects cryptography as a whole. Now, where does the problem come in? The problem is due to the advent of quantum computers. So while they are not yet sufficiently advanced enough to compute very much yet, they bring with them the promise of radically new forms of attack. So now these implementations up here were built to withstand attacks from classical computers. Quantum computers can take a completely new route to attack these, which the creators of these implementations could never have predicted. So as we've seen from the news headlines, it is a common misconception that the rise of quantum computers will bring about the demise of all cryptography as we know it. But that is not quite true. So the threat is due to two quantum algorithms, and the first is Grover's algorithm. And Grover's algorithm essentially enables you to find a single item in a very large unsorted list. And that might sound really boring, but this is the exact problem that you're going to face if you want to crack schemes such as AES and DES. So the reason that Grover's algorithm is a threat is that it can perform this job more efficiently than any of the classical algorithms that we currently have. And this means attackers need less time and less computing power to break algorithms like AES. In general, Grover's algorithm affects symmetric key cryptography. Now the good news here is that the speed increase is limited. At its very worst, its speed increase is negligible. At its very best, its speed increase can be countered by simply doubling the key size of your symmetric cipher. So if you were using AES 128, simply double that to AES 256 and you have successfully countered the quantum threat. So overall, symmetric primitives are weakened, but they are not broken. But that is the first quantum algorithm. There is a second, much more worrying quantum algorithm, which is Shor's algorithm. Now, Shor's algorithm essentially allows us to find the prime factors for an integer. And it just so happens that all of our asymmetric cryptography is based on the assumption that problems like prime factorization are slow and difficult to solve. If this assumption is no longer true, asymmetric cryptography will no longer be secure. So this means if we can get a quantum computer that is sufficiently advanced enough to implement Shor's algorithm, all of asymmetric cryptography will be blown out of the water. So what is the effect if we lose asymmetric cryptography? While symmetric cryptography is often doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the encryption that we use day to day, we generally use asymmetric cryptography as a prerequisite to establish a shared key first. As such, pretty much everything we do online today is protected by asymmetric cryptography. So if asymmetric crypto is suddenly made useless, all our online activities will be vulnerable to attack, even if our symmetric ciphers stay quantum resistant. So a lot of these activities have become fundamental to our way of life now. So online banking, for example, would be vulnerable. You'd no longer be able to safely purchase something from an online retailer, and that's just our day-to-day lives that we're considering here. Consider also that, for example, government defence systems will also be facing the same kind of issues. So due to our modern-day reliance on communications and the internet, the effect of broken asymmetric cryptography is perhaps much more widespread than we might first consider. So this, of course, is all very, very worrying news, but it all hinges on what people in the know call a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. That is, a computer which is sufficiently advanced enough to implement Shor's algorithm and crack schemes such as RSA. While we do have quantum computers today, they are not yet sufficiently advanced enough to really threaten our cryptography. So the question is, how far off is a cryptographically relevant quantum computer? So on the screen, I've got a graph from a 2023 report by the Global Risk Institute on the state of quantum computing. And to create this graph, the Global Risk Institute surveyed 39 experts in the field of quantum computing, and they asked each participant to estimate when a quantum computer will be able to factorize a 2048-bit number in less than 24 hours. So essentially, in plain English, the question here is, when will quantum computers be able to easily break asymmetric cryptography? Now, graphs aren't always the easiest to interpret during presentations, so let's briefly talk through this together. On the y-axis, we've got the likelihood of a cryptographically relevant quantum computer appearing. On the x-axis, we've got the number of years from now. And every 5 years, we're given 3 data points, and they are essentially the top, the bottom, and the average of our experts' estimates. Now, starting on the left-hand side, you can see that the experts agree that the chances of a cryptographically relevant quantum computer appearing in the next 5 years is pretty low. They put on an average of 8%. As you move up to 10 years, the percentages don't increase significantly. At 15 years, we have our first turning point. We have our first data point that is over 50%. That means that some of our experts believe it is more likely than not we will have a cryptographically relevant quantum computer. And the percentages just increase as we go further out. So the ability to easily break asymmetric encryption is perhaps 15 or so years away. Now that might feel like a long way off, but we need to remember that in that time frame, we need to identify a solution to this problem and have it fully implemented. In reality, that is not a very long time frame to make fundamental changes to the way that we and the internet as a whole manage our cryptography. Moreover, that does not mean that there is not a threat right now. So an approach that attackers are taking is called harvest now, decrypt later. The aim of this is to intercept or exfiltrate encrypted data for long-term storage. So the idea here is that while attackers won't be able to decrypt this data now, if they wait 15 years for when a cryptographically relevant quantum computer is available, they will be able to decrypt it then. And that might be a very big problem depending on the data that your systems are sending. So we've met the problem, we've met the potential effects. What is being done about it? We've actually been in a very similar situation before. Come with me briefly back to the 90s, a time when frosted tips were the hottest hairstyle and Tamagotchis were the must-have digital pets. Another 90s trend was DES, the data encryption standard, which was then, at the time, the go-to symmetric cipher. But DES was starting to show its age. The time and expense required to crack a DES key was falling year on year. So the go-to symmetric cipher was in danger. In response to this, America's NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, organized a competition to identify a new symmetric cipher standard, and this would be crowned as the Advanced Encryption Standard. This competition ran from 1997 to 2000 and finally gave us the symmetric cipher AES that we all know and love today. Similarly, between 2007 and 2012, NIST ran a competition to identify a new hashing algorithm, and this was named SHA-3. So it is perhaps of no surprise that NIST have once again stepped forward, but this time to organize a competition to identify the next generation of post-quantum asymmetric algorithms. So how has NIST competition progressed? All the way back in 2016, NIST put out a call for new asymmetric algorithms, and they're looking for two flavors here. They're looking for digital signatures and they're looking for encryption, so two flavors. And the aim of the competition wasn't to identify one single winning standard, but it was to try and identify a group of good choices. Submissions would, of course, be tested by NIST over several rounds and made available for public scrutiny. And the main criteria here, of course, are how secure these submissions are. But other considerations were things like performance, how easily these submissions could be dropped into existing protocols like TLS, and also if they came with added extras like perfect forward secrecy. So by the 2017 deadline, boffins from around the world had submitted a total of 69 submissions to be entered into round one. During round one, 25 schemes were broken or attacked, and even more simply discounted as inappropriate. In 2018, 26 candidates progressed into round two, with another 8 schemes being broken or attacked in this round. Round 3 accepted 18 candidates and ran between 2020 and 2022, and this finally produced NIST's 4 selected algorithms. So here they are. These are the first group of winners, and NIST are currently working towards standardizing these. Standards for each algorithm, along with guidance on migration and best practice, are promised this year. In fact, the drafts are out there for review right now. Now, you might note that there is just a single encryption algorithm up here, which might seem a bit limited when I said we were looking for a group of good choices. But it's worth noting that this is not the end of the competition. NIST are currently running a 4th round, identifying further algorithms from other round 3 entrants. So there are more algorithms to come. Now, as a brief detour, I'm going to indulge in some trivia. The more sci-fi inclined among you might recognize the names up on screen here. And the Crystals project produced 2 algorithms, a digital signatures algorithm and an encryption algorithm. Well, the digital signatures algorithm is called dilithium, which is named after the dilithium crystals from Star Trek, which are a key material in the warp core engines. Their encryption algorithm is called Kyber, which is named after Kyber crystals, which are the power sources of lightsabers. Anyway, detour over. If you ever make it on to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I might have just given you your £1 million trivia question. You can buy me a beer at 8:30. So at the moment, we are in perhaps a strange purgatory-like situation. We know there is an incoming threat. Algorithms have been chosen to mitigate that threat, but we currently have no official standards or guidance on how to use these algorithms. Well, despite that, although NIST haven't released their standards yet, these algorithms are in fact available for use right now. A lot of the big players like AWS are currently offering post-quantum encryption, and if you keep your Chrome browser up to date, your browser currently supports post-quantum encryption for TLS right now. The one thing that you might notice in these articles that I've got up here is that they're all mentioning hybrid post-quantum encryption. What do we mean by hybrid in this context? Why are they not just saying they support post-quantum encryption? Well, the first thing to note is that creating secure crypto systems is really, really hard. Doubly so for post-quantum algorithms. You've got to be resistant to classical attacks as well as quantum attacks. Experience has shown us that even for crypto systems created by the finest minds, the smallest flaw, once identified, can leave a crypto system completely trivial to crack. And due to the complexity of cryptography, flaws inherent in an algorithm are not always noticed for many years. Let me further illustrate this point by considering 2 algorithms that made it through to round 3 of NIST's standardization process, Rainbow and Psych. That is, both of these algorithms survived 2 rounds, or about 3 years, of poking and prodding from researchers and the general public. After being announced as a finalist, that is, on track for standardization, Rainbow was promptly demolished by an IBM researcher. They show that Rainbow could be cracked in under 53 hours on a standard, widely available classical laptop. Similarly, a few months later, Cyc was destroyed by a group of Belgian researchers. They showed that Cyc could be cracked using a classical single-core PC in 1 hour. So despite the fact that NIST's 4 winning algorithms have made it through 3 rounds and years of public scrutiny, it does not mean that we should have complete confidence that these algorithms won't turn out to be crackable, especially with quantum computing still being a rapidly developing field. So we're facing a trade-off here. We can stay with the current asymmetric cryptography and be confident that we will be resistant to classical attack, but this comes with a downside that we know we will be vulnerable to quantum attacks in the coming years. Or we can use one of NIST's new algorithms, which will hopefully provide resistance to both classical and quantum attacks. But the downside is that they haven't been fully road tested yet. We don't have complete confidence in them. The good news is that it doesn't have to be one way or the other. We can use a hybrid system. So these hybrid systems essentially allow us to execute both classical asymmetric cryptography and new post-quantum cryptography, either in series or at the same time, and combine the resultant keys. This leaves us confident that we will stay resistant to classical attacks and introduces the promise of quantum security. But you can't have your cake and eat it too. This comes at the cost of a significant performance overhead. Asymmetric cryptography is already computationally intensive, let alone having to do it twice. In addition, the increased complexity should always make us wary. Complexity is the enemy of security. Increased complexity is exactly where security flaws will hide unnoticed. So let me return to the example of implementation in Chrome. If you are using the latest version of Chrome, it now supports post-quantum cryptography and it is enabled by default. So the post-quantum algorithm that it uses is up on screen now, and that is a bit of a mouthful, so let's break it down. This is a hybrid algorithm. So it is doing elliptic curve cryptography using curve 25519, and that is a common algorithm that we use every day today. At the same time, it also supports the post-quantum Kyber algorithm, where 768 is just the key size. So of course, having your browser support post-quantum is only half of the battle. You also need the site that you're connecting to as well to support it. But as we saw, Cloudflare is also another early adopter. Currently, all Cloudflare domains support the hybrid algorithm I've got listed here. So this means if you use Chrome and navigate to any Cloudflare hosted website, you are currently using post-quantum cryptography. In fact, Cloudflare even offer a handy site allowing you to easily check if you're connecting using post-quantum cryptography. So this handy site is listed at the top of the page here, and I've got 2 screenshots showing me connecting with Chrome on the left and Firefox on the right. And as you can see, Cloudflare's site confirms that I'm using the hybrid algorithm when connecting with Chrome on the left, and a standard classical algorithm when I'm connecting with Firefox on the right. Now I've even got the Chrome dev tools up on the bottom there to double check that Cloudflare isn't lying to me. Now 2 things to note on this before we move on. First of all, Chrome has actually supported post-quantum for a while now, but it has been disabled by default so far. That is, until the start of this month, when I had to quickly change my slides, because they enabled it by default. And as you can see from the articles on the screen, this has had some teething issues. So protocol ossification is one of the main barriers to implementing post-quantum cryptography. And the issues seen by Chrome are a fantastic example of this. So why was Chrome seeing issues? Well, when we're connecting using TLS, we start by sending a client hello. As we're connecting over the internet, this client hello is routed via multiple middle boxes until it reaches our destination server. But with our new hybrid algorithm, this client hello has become too big to fit in a single packet. Now this should be absolutely fine because the TLS specification allows for a client hello to be split over multiple packets. However, it has been seen that a lot of middle boxes have ignored this part of the TLS specification. They do this because for our current day-to-day traffic, supporting a single client hello packet is enough to make the vast majority of traffic work, so they don't really care. As such, when Chrome enabled this hybrid algorithm by default, you might see errors depending on if the middle boxes on your request path correctly honour the TLS specification or not. Now, the second thing to note here is that while it's really, really cool to see post-quantum algorithms in use, this is only half of the puzzle to ensure that HTTPS requests are secure. When we connect to Cloudflare via Chrome, we are using a post-quantum algorithm, Kyber, for key agreement, which means the confidentiality and the integrity of the data that we are sending is protected from quantum attacks. This means we're safe from the harvest now, decrypt later approach. But even in this scenario, we are still relying solely on classical digital signatures for authentication. So essentially, in a quantum world, this setup will allow us to encrypt and send our data securely, but we will not have confidence in who we are sending that data to. So if an adversary had quantum capabilities, we would be vulnerable, for example, to a man-in-the-middle attack. So the message here is that implementations exist, but there is still a lot of work to be done. So now that we're slightly more familiar with hybrid algorithms, we can see that the timeline to post-quantum cryptography looks a lot like this. On the left, we've got our as-is, our current use of classical asymmetric cryptography. Over the next few years, it's likely that we will move to use hybrid asymmetric algorithms, and these offer us a safety net in case there are any surprises in our new algorithms, but come with a performance and complexity overhead. Once we have confidence in our new algorithms, we can then move to pure post-quantum, removing that performance and complexity overhead. So we've seen that post-quantum algorithms are here and in the process of being standardized, and in some cases even available for use. Now you're probably thinking, well, this is all great, but what is the steer? Of course, companies like Google are of course going to be ahead of the game, but what actions, if any, should I be taking right now? So let me finally touch upon some recommended guidance. Well, the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, or NCSC, has a 2,000-word white paper on the matter, and the summary of it in a few bullet points is as follows. Quantum cryptography is a serious threat to cryptography. The recommended mitigation is to use standards-compliant quantum-safe cryptography when available. NCSC guidance on post-quantum algorithms will follow once NIST have completed theirs. Until standards are completed, early adoption of algorithms is not recommended. Organizations need to start planning their transition to post-quantum cryptography now. Furthermore, the US's CISA, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, make very similar recommendations, but this time in a catchy infograph. They've actually put a timeline on here, and I note that they boldly put a date of 2030 for when a cryptographically relevant quantum computer will be available. That is a lot less than 15 years' time. They state that organizations should be using the time before standardization to do the following. Take an inventory of their critical data, identify what cryptographic protocols are being used, and prioritize systems for transition. So let me finally sum up what we've discussed today. We've discussed why quantum computing is a problem for cryptography, and this is due to Grover's algorithm and Shor's algorithm with asymmetric cryptography primarily in the firing line. We've discussed what effect broken asymmetric cryptography would have. That is, all our secure activities online would be threatened, internet banking, for example. We've discussed when a cryptographically relevant quantum computer might be available, and that is in perhaps the next 15 years. We've discussed that NIST are in the process of standardizing new algorithms for us to use, and many organizations are already making post-quantum algorithms available for use. We discussed that the next few years is likely a process of waiting for both standardization and for vendors to offer post-quantum support, followed by us migrating to use hybrid post-quantum algorithms rather than pure post-quantum algorithms. And finally, we've also discussed what the current guidance is from the UK and US's cybersecurity bodies. That is, wait for standardization, but start preparing now. One last item before I finish, I have up on the screen a QR code. This will take you to an anonymous survey, and it will ask you what the presentation did well, and importantly, what could be improved upon. Your feedback would be highly valuable for me, and hopefully the organisers won't mind if we leave that up for a few minutes during the break. Any feedback that you have for me would be really, really welcome. Otherwise, thank you all very much for listening. Oh no, go on then. Go on.
So basically, you said that if you use Google Chrome at the moment.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
He's going to use it. Is it like a preferred algorithm to use? Is why the fact that developers are saying don't use it at the moment?
Yes, so if you use Google Chrome, yes, that is the first choice of algorithm. So if the site you're connecting to offers it, as we saw with Cloudflare, it will default to that. Why is it using that? It's because they specifically said they're doing that to avoid this risk of harvest now, decrypt later. So they think that is more of a threat and are jumping on it.
So
Yeah.
where does the government really know that?
So I think what we're seeing here is that, as mentioned, we're in a bit of a purgatory-like situation. We think we're in a good place. We've got some hybrid algorithms which include the classical take to keep us safe against current threats and introduce that promise, but there is complexity and performance overhead. And before jumping straight in, we want to make sure that standards are in a good place. We saw what happened with Rainbow and Psych, and to be honest, this time frame has been quite small between these algorithms being identified and these standards being pushed out. If I did this talk again in 2 months' time, we would probably have standards. So it's quickly emerging.
So at the moment, if you see this algorithm not there, you shouldn't recommend it, and if you see it there, you shouldn't say, really, you should just be quiet about it.
Well, I'm going to toe the line of the National Cybersecurity Centre, and they say do not adopt it yet. But I think in 2 months' time they might change their tune with standards are here.
Have you seen any SSH like funneling or anything like that that has adopted these things?
Good question. I don't know. I'm sure there must be. I'm sure there will be projects out there.
And like these are numbers, like 200 digits are numbers, because it's hard to calculate, for example, the current power.
Yeah.
So why don't they make it like 2,000 digit number? Because we go on computers.
So as in classical computers struggle with this size. If quantum computers can do it easily, why not just double it? Or 10 times more. So I think the issue there is that quantum computers approach the problem fundamentally differently. Doubling it, times it by 10, will not have the impact that we expect it to do. That problem for quantum computers is easy, full stop, regardless of how big that is.
They work in a completely different way. So it's like it's massive numbers with current crypt, whereas this new crypt is tiny, tiny little numbers, and it's all about the errors. I'm not a cryptographer, but it's just completely different. I've got a question, but actually for Ruth, which is that if like billions is being spent invested in quantum computers at the moment by nation states, you know, Chinese, but also probably Cheltenham, you know, we're going to say as well. But if someone invented a quantum computer, would they tell anyone?
Yes, no, example, the quantum stuff is like graphene. Graphene is going to take over the world in the days. Do you hear about graphene now? No. Quantum computers, going to happen in 30 years. In 30 years, we're going to be living in burrows that we make underneath the ground, and then we're training Bitcoin. So in 30 years, yeah. But maybe in 5 years' time, the child will be born, our country will have the thing to do it. But this saw now, break it later on. Who has enough cash for that many storage accounts or something?
It'd be the Chinese, and think about payments, right? Like if you could spoof payments, like happy days.
But then also, if it is a state nation, currently, like, we think that for them, so they're going to adopt this very late. Because they see the traffic between Glasgow and the other uses a completely different algorithm. So, finally, like, basically, they just need to keep their nations, like, nation state package. They are controlling the backwards, so they can actually steal $3,000. So, we already got that problem.
But if it's China, what is it that you're worried about? Your bank account or the other stuff?
they're winding up everything anyway. Well, I would say, I mean, you know, to Charlie's point, I'd just say that if you go on BBC News in October this year and it says Chinese have invented a quantum computer, you can have the bad day away. That's all I'm saying. But I just want to say thanks again to Charlie. That was really brilliant talk.
So I think it's a fair point. I can understand there is a lot of people out there who share the same view and feel like quantum is not going to come to fruition. And I think it is somewhat of a case of just hedging your bets. So maybe it doesn't come, in which case, brilliant, thank God. But if it does come, better to be prepared before, as you say, China comes around the corner and says, actually, we've got it. That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Right, we'll have a 5-minute refreshment. Grab any more food, drink, little boys, little girls room, and then that's the next talk.
Oh no!
iPhone.
Where's your iPhone?
Oh, there's your iPhone.
Who's recording? And it's like it's now the issue.
So it's like connected by Bluetooth, that one.
I don't know. I don't know what protocol it uses actually. It's probably Has he got your slides on your laptop?
No, it's on my laptop because I have live demo.
Oh, you're going to swap it over?
Yeah. I turned on my laptop as well just because I need to make sure
It's a proper race grinder. You're right.
Can you see that? Doesn't look like anything.
Tell you what, risk removed.
For a moment there, I thought, you know, the camera and everything.
It's the best way to go. Now they're all trying to get back on.
There were some interesting numbers in your polls there, you know, the sort of worry, you know, ability to recruit, and then the freedom of no, you're not willing to take a pound everything you give there is no return on your investment from my team. But you might have business next year. There is a possibility you don't use them. Yeah, you may not have business next year. Which is difficult to get across. Operational security. Remember day one, before you arrived, and then flying years.
That used to be the boat.
Pretty much everyone in effect first showing up by Lithuania. Looks like it's worth it. 64,000. Yeah. Because it started in countryside. That's where it first started.
This is the worst.
Yeah, you just you need
Smooth today. Smooth today.
He's not before, he's like
Tubes, is it one of the that's kind of just nothing, right? No adequate last we did a proper special. We did a proper that's how I exactly like that's the you talk about we can do someone no, it's true. It's true in terms of
So yeah.
It's more about the like in the room, when you're happy last year and a half, they're always apologies for that, yeah. It'll be some indigestion or something. That seems good. Did you say last time you did way longer than So you wouldn't be involved in this project. Nice version of that.
Well, that should be fun though. See, that's my, when I finally kind of experience them off.
Gets
me out of delivery. I don't mind. I've been for 3 years. Although the project was good. The project was good, and I like to be back on the cultivation of that phrase. I feel I'm better. I do feel my experience before NTT, that's 3 years there I was managing. I feel I'm better. I'm good at giving guidance. And I'm good at doing people say that, but I think there's a passive. I've got ideas, good ideas, go ahead, otherwise I'll be my own bubble.
Makes sense, mate. I'll let you carry on.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Right, so next talk is Suresh on practical application security testing for e-commerce and payments testing. As Nate said, this isn't the first talk from Suresh, and he's always very good if you want to get cash. If you want to get cash out, then this is your man. Yeah, how to get money out of systems is a theme. Yeah.
Hi everyone, my name is Suresh and thanks for coming here. Today I'm going to talk about practical methods of security testing of e-commerce and payment applications. The thing is, if you really want to see the practical testing of this, the training you require a few days just on this topic. So today I'm not going to talk about absolutely everything, but I'm going to show you the guidelines and where you can find references and resources to basically test these systems, or if you want someone to test your systems, what you need to do. So first, my name is Suresh, as I said. So I've been doing application security for more than 15 years now. So these days I'm working for myself, SEC project director. I used to work for MDSEC and NCC Group. I normally do web application testing, and source code review. When I have free time, I do bug bounty, do research, and I also do training. So today I'm going to first start with what are the targets, who can be tested, who needs this e-commerce or payment security assessment. And then I'm going to talk about how to plan this, how we can be ready beforehand, what kind of information do you need to ask the client, what kind of information clients should collect if they want to have this assessment, and things like that. And then I will basically introduce you to a testing methodology, but it's a brief, basically, testing methodology here. There are some references that you can go to and look at that have a lot of details there. The first time I created the testing methodology was back in 2015, and I updated it back in NCC Group 2017, I think. But then not much have changed, so there are a few more new things, but it's still a good one to refer to. So first of all, who can be tested? So this talk covers all the clients who are using payment in their websites, or credit applications, financial institutes, even banks and gambling sectors can be the target. I used to work for Bet365 for 4 years. I found lots of cheats and lots of basically hacks in how to win a lot of money, how to basically change the results and all those sort of things. I had a talk in another OWASP chapter meeting a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, I can't remember, but the title is How to Win Big, and I have also mentioned it in the references, so you can refer to that as well. So when you want to start an assessment, so I'm basically looking at it as with a view of a pen tester, not a view of somebody who is asking for a pen test. So someone comes to me and say, I want these websites to be tested. I look at the website and I will realize that they also have, they're selling things, or for example, it's a bank, or there are some financial things involved, or money is involved, we can do stuff with money, or it's like a gambling website, you can do stuff with numbers. So the first thing I need to make sure is, next to all those conventional questions that I ask them about what kind of setup you have, what are the access controls and what things are, I need to ask specific questions to make sure that I can test these systems properly. So with the example of the juice shop, for example, the juice shop has come to me and say, okay, we want the juice shop to be tested. So I look at the website and I see that they have payment. So I start asking some payment related questions. One of the things that first you need to know about is like the order process and workflows. Like how can someone order something and then do the checkout? That's important because sometimes you go to the website, it's very complex, and you will realize that you don't know everything about this. You are struggling with some sort of like orders, or you can't do the full coverage on the website. Also, if you have to ask for any implementation or design diagrams. They may think that they're not important, they're only important for developers, but as a tester, you need to review all those things because we are dealing with logical issues here. We're dealing with design issues here. So you need to look at all those things and think about how can I break this. And also any restrictions on checkout. So sometimes you are viewing a shop and, for example, it doesn't sell you certain products, or those products never available to you because you are from, for example, the UK. If you were using a US IP address, maybe you could see those products and you could basically get to them. So always ask, like, what kind of restriction do I have? Like, how can I bypass this restriction and do more? One of the most important questions that I've seen often pen testers or security testers do not ask the clients, and clients normally don't think it's important, is about different payment types in the website. So if they support PayPal, they support credit card, if they support some sort of, I don't know, Sage or whatever they have, or gift cards, it's very important to know about because every single one of them can be vulnerable, and or all of them can be secured except one. One example that always comes to my mind is the PayPal, because I had a test. They supported 4 or 5 different payment methods, and only PayPal was vulnerable. Only their implementation of PayPal didn't check the currency. I will talk about that more. So the other thing is the sample payment data. So if you're not testing in the production environment, you can't just use your own testing credit card. Like normally these days I go to Revolut app, I created one of these virtual cards so I can cancel it later on. I don't put a lot of money in it, so I won't be out of pocket. But then if it is in the test environment, you need to have some sample of test cards or some sort of like sandbox username and password and things like that, so you can finish the checkout. You can order something for real. If you don't complete the checkout when you are testing a payment system, the test is not complete. Although the payment on its own might be outside of the scope, it might be third party, when it comes back to the website, it is relevant again. So you need to finish it successfully. So all those questions are very important. Also another thing is about the refund process. I often see that people do not ask about refund process, like they are testing payment systems, but they don't ask how the refund works. Refund is actually very important because or maybe it is very important because nobody looks at it. And I often see that you can cheat in the refund process. You can cancel an item, get more money than you had basically spent originally. And things like that, which is quite good to know. Sometimes they say the refund is manual, which is fine. It's good to know that how the refund works. Or they may say, okay, if the amount value is negative, then that's a refund. So it's good to know. So all those things matters. Also ask about other features that the website has. Like, does it support vouchers? Does it support gift cards? What does it do, for example, if my credit balance is negative? What does it mean? Do you charge me additionally if, for example, my shipping address is Canada? Or, for example, what sort of like different currencies do you support? Currencies actually is a very important question to ask because most of the times the client in the UK will tell you, we only support British pound. But when you're testing the payment system, you will realize that, okay, they also accept Indian rupee without them knowing, which is actually very useful in security testing because you don't need to pay a lot of money. Like instead of paying £20, I pay 20 rupees. And because from their website point of view, you can't change currency, they don't care, they don't check it. So these kind of things is important. Also when you're testing, as soon as you realize that, okay, I'm changing currency, it's a security issue on its own, even if I don't find anything relevant, because it matters. So you need to ask as much as information as possible. As I said, one of the other things that you need to know is like
how can I place and cancel orders with less friction? When I'm testing a client with payment system, I often see them reluctant to help me with this payment process because they're like, if you order something, we have to cancel it. It's very complex, and we just don't want to cancel it. Then if you're shipping something, they are going to be shipped to you before we cancel it and things like that. So you need to ask them, okay, can I use, you will be surprised, they always have these things, but they don't tell you. Can I use a specific shipping address so you know that it's for testing? Can I use a specific card data, or can I do something to my order so you know that it will be cancelled immediately or it won't need to be shipped? Like, the amount of items that used to be shipped to me without asking that question was a lot. Like, one time I received some mustaches in the office, and they were like, why did you order fake mustache in the office? And I was like, I didn't pay for it. I didn't know they were going to deliver it. And that was the cheapest item in the website. I normally just pick the cheapest item because I don't want to spend a lot of money. At the same time, I don't want the client to be out of pocket. So that was the cheapest item in the website. So it's good to know how you can create less friction. And with less friction, it means that client is going to be happy about your work. They are not going to get like hundreds of complaints about different departments saying, okay, they ordered this expensive coffin and now they're canceling it. Why aren't they dead? So, okay, there is a story about that. If you look at how to win big presentation before, I managed to order a free coffin for myself. 11 months in advance. So, okay. The other things that you need to ask is like, are the credit cards being stored in your website? So many of these retailers or shops do not actually deal with the credit cards directly. They basically pass it to a third party. They handle the stuff, and then they give these guys a token. So they are basically using a token. Well, you need to ask that question, because sometimes they will tell you, yes, we also store them until the payment is authorized, and then we get rid of it, or we encrypt it for, I don't know, 10 days or something like that. So it's good to know what you're after, especially if you're testing for PCI, then it's an important question. So I talked about the shipping address, and the other thing is like, what current protections are in place. So one thing from client's point of view, like if you are working for retail, or if you are working for a bank, when the systems are being implemented or developed, you have some sort of like prerequisites to fulfill. You have some sort of conditions. The users should not be able to order more than 10 items at the same time from blah blah blah. So you basically code that in the system, or you put some rules somewhere. Or the only currency that should be used is GBP. Or for example, other conditions that are in the system, like the shipping address should be in the UK. There are a lot of protections that they can put in place, or they can't use negative values in their month and things like that. Or the quantity should be an integer, shouldn't be a decimal. You can't just order half a book. You have to order the whole book or nothing. You can't just order half a book. So they have all these things. So it's good to get those things from them, and if you are working for them, it's good to write them down in a document. So whenever you have a test, pass them to someone, say, okay, we normally do this functional testing on this, but I think they are useful also for security testing. So whenever I'm testing, I'm like, okay, give me all your functional testing documents, because they are useful to me. And sometimes it's good to ask for current business concepts. Like I had a customer, they had a payment system in their application, and the concern was like, the scammers are using our website to validate credit cards. They do not use the credit cards to buy anything from us, but they use our website to validate them. So we want to reduce that. Our concern is this. We don't want them to think that they can abuse this situation, because per each validation they were spending like 10 pence or 20 cents or something like that. I don't know if they were in the US or here, but yeah, they were paying money for it, and they said, yeah, scammers, whenever they dump a database, they come to us and they validate the cards. So we want to make sure, and we want to see why they're doing that. We have CAPTCHA and all these things in place, so I have to find out. So it's good to ask what their concerns are, or what they think about their system. Or for example, if they are using a single voucher, they may just say, okay, we have seen vouchers being used more than once, so we want to make sure that that is not happening. We want to make sure that that was just not a one-time glitch and we don't have that problem anymore. And I had like customers telling me that their gift cards are being used by other non-customers, or some people, like the gift card that was from someone in Birmingham was used in Glasgow, and they were concerned like, why is this happening? So you have to make sure that the system is secure. Sometimes it's just like somebody has stolen the card and has sold it online on eBay and things like that, but still you need to know about their concerns. Let me go to the next one. I've talked too much about that. So this is the brief testing methodology. I have added them like in 12 steps, but they can be different as well. In here, I'm mainly going to talk about the second one because I want to demo it. It's quite an interesting one. I'm going to talk a little bit about parameter manipulation because that's what everybody knows about testing payment systems. If I have time, I will talk about numeric and precision handling. Especially actually the only thing that I'm going to talk about there is about the overflow. Like what's going to happen if we have an integer and we overflow it? Is it going to go mad, or is it going to become negative, or are you going to bypass some sort of protection? But then if you have time. Just briefly going through these things. Replay attacks, even if they are using encryption or anything, you can basically, you have to check for replay attacks there to make sure you cannot use the same, for example, transaction ID to order different things. Card number related issues. If they're using 3D Secure, can they reveal the credit card number in the system so if somebody can hijack it using process scripting attack? Or like, can they validate their credit card, their stolen credit card? Or some applications require user to only to use a credit card, and if you use the same credit card in another user account, it will say, no, this credit card has been used before. So you can test for that, and you can enumerate those credit card numbers that has been used on the website. It's a security issue and so on. There are other things here. I would say I would recommend you to go and have a look at those references at the end of this document. I'm going to publish it as well. And all of these things have been explained very well there. And my plan is in the future to expand on these and create a better website than just a PDF file for all these things. So with the parameter manipulation, it is what you normally know about testing the systems. Price manipulation, if you're ordering a pizza for £10, just change it to 1, see if it works. Shouldn't work, but sometimes works. Currency manipulation, if the currency is the GBP, change it to, rupee, Indian rupee, and see if it works. You will be surprised how many times it works. Quantity manipulation, changed a quantity from 1 to 0.1 or even negative. Sometimes the result is very surprising. Shipping address and post method manipulation. I've found this a lot in different websites that although they charge for shipping, you can normally bypass that and get it for free by changing some parameters in the request. Additional cost manipulation, like if you need gift wrapping or something like that, sometimes they just don't check these things at the last stage, so you can add them on and don't pay for them. There are different things that you can do here in parameter manipulation. Again, I would say you can refer to that document because I'm going to cover this topic here today. Still have time. Good. So this is about time of check, time of use, and race condition issues. Time of check and time of use is when system checks something and then use it later on, and in between the state changes in a way that that check becomes invalid, or yes, it becomes invalid. That if it checks it again, it will say no, I don't want to do this. And race conditions are when you basically these things, time of check and time of use, are very close together. You have very small window to exploit it, and so you use race condition to attack the system and to hit that small window of exploitation to do what you want. Also with race condition, it's not always time of check, time of use, but yeah, we basically send a lot of requests at the same time, or to hit the same function at the same time when it is doing something. The better explanation for race condition, if you go to Web Academy, they have the best explanation for race condition. It's very simple, very easy to understand. In here, I'm going to show it to you practically. So hopefully you will also understand what I mean by that. So what can you exploit in here? Transferring money. So for example, if I transfer money from one, so in a bank account, I have current account and I have saving account. If I start moving money from my saving account to my current account a lot at the same time, I may be able to exploit the race condition in a way that my saving account becomes negative, and that money has been added to my current account, and now I can withdraw it. And I don't care that I have a negative saving, because that's not going to cost me anything. So that's one of the things that you can exploit there. Buying items simultaneously is also another one with race conditions. You go to this payment system, which is a third-party system. As soon as it comes back to the website, it authorizes an item. What would happen if you use the same transaction ID multiple times for different items quite quickly? There are other things that I'm going to show as an example as well of these race conditions here. Or change the order upon payment completion. This is a classic example of time of check, time of use. So you are basically, you're ordering something, but then in the middle you change your basket, and then you will end up with paying a lot less than what you should. Or changing order after payment completion. Like for example, you go to this insurance website, you get a quote, you pay for it, but somebody needs to approve it on their side. Before they approve it, you go back to that request that you had previously, and you change your excess to 0. I know you have already paid for it, but they will verify it, and you get a discount, the discount that they didn't want you to have. The same thing applies to reward points, vouchers, and discount code. So think about money as a number. So wherever you have a number, you have that problem. So if you can transfer points from your account to another account, then again that can be exploited by race condition. Or for example, if you have this voucher that you can only use once, using race condition you may be able to use it 10 times. Some examples about that are also in Web Academy of Portswigger, which are quite interesting. So this is the first example to explain it better. This is a classic time of check, time of use. I have exploited it a lot in the past. You may not believe it, but it works. So add a cheap item to your basket. Think about it as a pizza. You add one pizza to your basket. You initiate the checkout process. You will be redirected to your bank website to enter your 3D secure, or to enter some sort of credit card data, whatever. You are on a different website. When the payment is successful, it will redirect you back to the website that you were on to order pizza, and it has a transaction ID in the URL. You will check it. If it's valid, then it will authorize anything that you have in your basket. So what's the security issue here? The security issue is, while it's waiting for you to authorize your payment, you add more items to your basket. So you are in a third-party website. It doesn't know that your basket is changing. I'm changing my basket. Instead of one pizza, now I will add 9 more. So I have 10 pizza in my basket. I pay for one pizza, comes back to the website. It verifies the transaction is valid, and the transaction is valid because I paid for it. But then it authorized everything that I have in my basket, including all those 9 other pizzas that I did not pay for.
Can we do this next time?
So here is an example for real life.
Would it be controlled for me, wouldn't it? I have been asked to go to the platform.
Yeah, it is fraud. Yes.
Yeah, if
That's
anyone
what
is
I
a
would
pen
say.
tester, speak to a lawyer first.
Yeah. So this is an example of this happening in real life. So the item that I was ordering was only 16. I should read this here. 16.49. And then he showed me the payment page, and the payment page was an iframe. So it was a third-party website that was not aware of my basket. And so at the same time, I added another expensive item to my basket, which was £147. And I only paid the shipping and the item price. The item price was $12.99 originally, and the shipping was $3.50. Totally together, I paid like $16.49. But when it came back, it gave me that £147 item. That was not shipped to me because I told them about it. But I mean, I didn't need that item either. That item was quite irrelevant to me. That was the most expensive item in the website, but still, it was a book. Who needs a book? So yeah. But anyway, I'm saying that it works. These days, you see less of them because the payments. So what they do is like they get this token from the payment system, and then they will authorize a payment on their own side. So they have everything in their own hand. Still, there is a window of race condition there, much harder to exploit. But the problem for us pen testers is if it is a live application, with every single test, you are paying that £16. And it's quite expensive for me to send 10 requests and pay about £160. So if they give me a solution, then obviously I will try it. I will send hundreds of requests and I will test it. But if it is bug bounty, or if I'm just testing out of my own pocket and they tell me they will refund my money at the end of the pen test, so I'm not going to willingly pay £1,000 items. So yeah, it is hard to exploit them in the live application. That's why many testers do not test for these things, and that's why they are still out there. Another example of like a race condition in time of check and time of use is this code. Basically, it's very simple. What it does is it checks your amount that you want to transfer, and if it is less than the amount or equal to the amount to your current balance, then it will allow this to happen. It will transfer that, and it will actually save your balance, and then does other stuff, which is like to transfer that money somewhere else. So it's just a pseudocode. It's not real. But then, using Burp Suite, we can exploit this. I think I have time to demo this online. So let's see if it is going to fail or not. Yep, demo got. So I'm using secteam.com website for this because they have a platform for this instead of using the local containers. The website is used for like secure coding, so it's quite useful. But I also have like a paid account there. I use this Python code, so it's easy to understand. Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. Thought it's failing me. Okay. Did it do anything? Did it do anything? Restart? Then please refresh it. Oh, it's creating something.
Suresh and I have a bet going about whether his demo is going to work, given the curse of demos. And I actually think it is going to work.
How much did you put on it? doesn't block it.
That's cheating.
I think because it's recorded the video, that means it will work.
Okay, it's loading. Looks like code to me. So it's a Python code, so the logic is inside here at the moment. I have two endpoints. I will show it to you. Let's just start this. Open in browser. In here. Program. Okay, fine. So my current balance is 1,000. Yes, of course, if I had a mouse. Where is the plus sign on this? Better? Okay, very good. So, please forgive this website. It uses GET requests to do transfer. Just for an example. So if I click on this, it will say, okay, I've transferred 10. My new balance is 990. Now if I transfer 1,000, it will say my amount is higher than my balance. And there is also this good reset that I've implemented it myself there, and it makes everything back to normal. So in the code here, we have, I don't know if I can make this bigger, let's see. Oh yeah, okay. Okay. In the code here, this will check for the balance, for the amount to be less than or equal than the balance. And then it will call this transfer function that does nothing other than causing a very small delay that I'm going to talk about. But that's normal, because normally when the transfer happens, there are some API calls, there are some database calls and things like that, so that's for that. The delay is very important, because if there is no delay, it's very hard to pull this off. That's why sometimes it's very hard to exploit this in an application. But these days, whenever I've tried it, it has worked, unless it was a bank and it was tested before and they have secured it somehow. So, now I want to exploit this. I want to basically send a request to this, and I want to have, I want to transfer more money than what I have here. So, if I normally just go to this, like transfer 100, and I keep refreshing this, then go back to the application itself. You say, okay, I have no balance and I've transferred 1,000, which is fine. This is an expected result, and it doesn't let me to transfer anymore. Now we want to exploit this using race condition. So I grab this, or actually let's just grab this one. Copy link. I go to verb suite. So let's do this from the beginning, so it will look familiar. So I will create a HTTP request here. So one thing here is that it is using by default, it uses by default HTTP 101. If you really want to exploit these issues, if this website supports HTTP 2, you should switch to it. In Burp, it's quite easy to do that, so we just need to basically switch the version to HTTP 2, and that would solve the problem for us. So let's do this. So this is by clicking on this HTTP 2 here, and the reason I will show you why we have done this. And if we want to exploit race condition, then we have to create a group here. So add to a group, create a new group, and I will call it like group 2. Let's change the color of this group to blue as well. And now I just right click and send this tab that basically duplicated it a number of times. Basically duplicated it like how many times? I don't know, 8 times. And then from here I choose this option, send group in parallel. This is why basically we use HTTP2, because now we have this single packet attack. Single packet attack using GET requests does not sometimes make sense, but again, in here we're going to see that it is working because we have that small delay there, so it should work. So now if I send all these requests at the same time, so what it does, it will try to pack all these requests together, and it uses HTTP2. The logic behind it are all documented in Portsfigure website, how these things work, as their talk last year in Black Hat. And now if I press this send group button, okay, for some of the requests I've got like 400 bad requests, and remember that I am transferring 1000 here, so it should work only once. Now going back to the website and refreshing this, it is going to fail me now. Oh, actually no, it didn't. So now as you can see, now my balance is minus 1000 and my transferred money is 2000. So I managed to exploit this using race condition to transfer more money than I had originally. Some websites do not recognize this negative value. They keep it 0 all the time, which is not good. But then that means if I can transfer that 2000 back to the account, I will, and I will exploit it again and again and again until I'm rich or in prison. So one of these two. But yeah, I've exploited this quite recently as well. Actually, I think I have a slide for it here. What's happening? So this is what I've recently exploited. I was testing a payment system. It was a credit system. So in here, I was not testing the shop. I was testing the payment itself. And it was a credit company, and that was a payment method. So I was just testing that payment method. They wanted to make sure that they are safe. So I showed that I can abuse the system when I only had £1,000 credit, and I can spend about 1,500 or something like that. I exploited that way. So basically, I spent £1,500, and my credit became minus 500. Surprisingly, they had no problem with that, so I don't know. They said this is an accepted risk. We understand negative numbers and things like that. I was like, okay, fine. Maybe they were flagging it. So what it does is like, I was adding an item to the basket, and then I was going to the checkout process. And then as soon as I was choosing this specific payment type, there was a mobile app on my phone. It was popping up a message, do you authorize this payment? So that was my delay. That was what I wanted. So I sent, obviously it was like on a jailbroken iPhone. I had access to all those incoming requests and outgoing requests, so I could basically accumulate them quite fast together. So I sent 10 10 checkout requests. So I had these 10 pop-ups on my phone to authorize, but I was authorizing them using Burp Suite. So I got all those tokens from all of them, added them to different tabs in the same group, and I sent them at the same time, and that happened. So I managed to abuse the system and got and spent more money than the credit that I had. So exploiting these issues using these new features of Burp Suite is quite easy. We used to write our own Python code using sockets and all those sort of things. It was not that pleasant, and most of the times we were failing. But now with HTTP2 and these tools, it is working. Sometimes it needs tweaking, but yeah, if you want to know more, I would say go to the Portsfigure website, read the race condition section. They have a lot of good labs as well there. Also, when you're exploiting these vulnerabilities, think about using multiple sessions. So if you can log in with the same account multiple times, you have multiple sessions, so you can exploit it differently. If they have put some rate limiting on your session or lockout on your session, you can use multiple sessions to circumvent that, or use multiple devices. Also look how they have done the rate limit. If they are using IP address, just use a tool that can send all your requests through different IP addresses at the same time. So the recommendation for avoiding this issue is actually very hard. and also it depends on like what you're testing and what's being bypassed and what sort of technologies they're using. So rate limiting can mitigate the risk, but it doesn't solve the whole problem. It's not a solid solution, but think about it. If I can abuse the system twice a day, it's much better than me abusing it like hundreds of times per day, so I can get a lot of profit out of the system in one day. So if maybe I can cheat and I can get like double or 3 times of my credit out of the system per day, but if I do it more, I need to do it in different days. So that will reduce the damage a little bit. Atomic transactions, it's like a general advice. They're saying doing all the transaction as a whole in one atomic transaction, like for example in a database or in the framework. So it is fully complete or it fails. Don't do it separately. Don't do the check here and then use here. Just do everything in one pipeline. And also use locking mechanism. Like depends on like the database that you use. You can use database locks. Session locks can be there, but session locks are quite tricky. They often give you this false sense of security. So unless you are 100% sure what you're doing is correct and concurrent login is not allowed, then yeah, go for it. That may solve the problem. Also, monitoring is very important. So flag it if somebody has negative values in the system, or if a lot of transactions are happening at the same time. Just flag it, lock that user's account, review it manually. Sometimes it will help to recognize you are being exploited at the beginning. I want to talk about it, but we don't have time. But I have basically put a lot of details of this in the references on those documents that I've mentioned. Also, with the demo, you can use the SecTeam website. Again, it contains several examples, but these days you can just use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can create you some good examples. Like go there and ask ChatGPT, how can JavaScript deals with big numbers? Can it go wrong? What can go wrong? And things like that. It gives you some examples. So, for example, in JavaScript, if you say 2 to the power of 53, that's the biggest like integer that you can have there, or number you can have there. If you say +1 and +2, as you can see, it creates like wrong results. +1 did nothing, +2 added 2. So these kind of things happen all the time in the payment systems and in numerical systems, especially with cryptocurrencies and things like that. Now we can see bigger numbers, so these kind of things can happen. Also, there is this good example here that shows like how this went wrong. So let me just quickly mention this. So there was a very similar issue here. It's not related to payment, but what happened here was quite interesting. Basically, this problem was in one of the Airbus Boeing systems. So it did not. One of the functionality that checked that if the system needs rebooting stopped working because the produced number went above the bigger integer number, and it became negative. So it couldn't validate it. It's somewhere here along these lines. If my eyes can work. But yeah, the related issue, invited, true action. Okay, that's them God failing me on my eyes. Oh, you don't? Okay. I was showing it to you. Okay, let's see how I can exit. That you told me. Thought you should seeing my browser. Okay. I was basically showing you this. The unsafe condition was like this. AD was prompted by the blah 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 that has been powered continuously for 248 days, can lose all alternating current electrical power due to the generator control unit simultaneously going into fail-safe mode. And the reason for that was because if you had like 248, it was telling you that you need to reboot the system, but if it was like 249, it was telling you that no, it doesn't need reboot, it's a negative number. So that happened because of the numbers again. So I would say that's very interesting. If you want to have a look at that later on, let's see. Yeah, I'll put all the links there as well, and the references are at the bottom as well. So thank you very much for listening to me. Yeah.
Two warnings, I suppose. If you are going to be presenting to a client, make sure you've got a contract with the client. I think it's like if you're a developer, but don't forget there's tendencies like around the client. Thanks to Hayes, thanks to our two brilliant speakers. I've learned so much today. And thanks to all of you for coming as well. We literally invited. So thanks for coming.
No, I should have given a don't try this at home warning. I think for everything that Zurich says, you can disregard.
There are a lot of bug bounty programs out there, so if you want to try it really for real, just make sure that they have bug bounty, and if they have bug bounty, go for it, because they are going to pay you. I've seen even gambling websites are doing it now. Like they make some of the games available. They say if you hack them, we give you this much money. The only problem is they don't give you free accounts, so you have to spend your own money, and by the time you get their money, you have to spend more money, or you have become addicted. So that's different.
So if you do, don't blame someone.
Thank you guys. Thanks for listening. Thank you. We'll be around if you have any questions.
If not, we'll see you at the time. Cheers, everyone.